why don't I take it away? So we're going to do something slightly different this month, and probably for the next couple of months, actually. So we've been making some slight and ongoing changes to the maturity model competencies that we already have. So we're going to take you through that. So with that in mind, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to this month's practitioner session. We're the team. Not all of us are here today, but we've certainly got Mark, Simon, Mats, and Pia. Is Pia here? He says, desperately looking at the thing. Maybe Pia isn't here, but we've got Mats. So I'm very pleased to let everybody know that we've got 3 new members of the broader global team. So Galen Keane, one of our US friends, and then Pia Langenkrans. And Matt, if I get any of these pronunciations wrong, please help me out and don't leave me embarrassed. And Matt's Warnolf, both from Sweden, who've stepped in to bring some of their expertise to the maturity model team. So I'm properly chuffed about this. Chuffed is a very English phrase. It means I'm very, very pleased indeed. Because I think they all bring some additional perspective and energy to the continuing development of this edifice of work, which is always welcome. So delighted to have them on board. Right, next slide, please, Mark.
You bet. Oh, sorry, wrong button.
Oh, I can do it, can't I? We're doing this in proper live mode, even better. Right. So the standard agenda, although we've tweaked a couple of the slides just for freshness, the standard agenda is we're going to take you through what the artifacts and the purpose of the maturity model is, just in case there's anybody completely new. Dana, you've got your hand up. Do you want me to address that now? Okay, chip in if you've got something to say. I'll carry on otherwise. So when we do our customary shout out and we grab the picture for next month's session, we mention our contributions and then we'll get on to us talking about this sparkly upgrade that we've done. And I should be able to do this. Hopefully when I did that, it's moved on for everybody. Is everyone seeing reminders?
No, I think it,
maybe you have to do it then, Mark. I was hoping I could do the advance.
What slide is on the screen that you see?
Reminders.
All right, there we go.
Okay, now we're talking. I thought maybe I could make it go forwards, but no.
If you take control, you can, Simon.
Yes, I'll do that. Oh yeah, much better. Right, so that's just a link to the list of calendar invitations. So if you don't want to have to put all the things into your calendar manually, you can do so with that single friendly neighborhood click. And I remember there's some other ways of getting to us, particularly via Meetup, which a lot of us in the communities are using these days. Right, let me see if this works. Oh, it did, and then I clicked it twice. Right, so these are the current competencies and other artifacts on the right. The purple ones are all the live delivered competencies. The 2 in a sort of a faded purple are ones that we would love to have worked on, but the current team doesn't have the competence, ironically, to do that. So if anybody feels that they're experts on data analytics or security and want to come and help us build those competencies, that would be rather marvelous. We've got a couple of tools, in particular, some stuff on how to actually run a maturity model workshop. More on that later. We've got a couple of practical scenarios and more. Actually, we might have 3 practical scenarios now. We need to check that. I think there's a 3rd already. And we're hoping to build a bunch more of those over the coming months, and then a set of supporting articles. We are pretty much at capacity, apart from those 2 light purple ones, on competencies. Not many more coming out of the woodwork, but we would like to potentially extend the artifact list by doing a lot more practical scenarios where we take a set of competencies and use them to address a particular business improvement process. And the purpose is on the left. I won't go through that now because we're out of time. Simon, why don't you run us through the overall maturity model concept so I save my voice for a moment?
Oh, thanks, Simon. if you're with us for the first time, welcome. So the maturity level, or the maturity model, runs from level 100 up to level 500. Level 100 is that initial sort of default state where things are sort of ad hoc and reactive. It's that default position. But as you sort of address those and looking to make improvements in a particular competency, you're going to move over and transition from level 100 to 200, where you're starting to put some management around it. You're starting to look at how you can make it better, and you're moving to sort of more firefighting and looking at how you can make it more stable and controlled. And as you reach that state, then you're going to reach to a defined level, which is level 300. And this is kind of our default state that we think, if you're going to be looking to implement a competency, this is where you want to be at a minimum, where you've got things documented and they're planned and controlled. And then as you're looking to, if you want to start excelling in that particular competency, then you're going to look to move up towards level 500, and by doing that, moving into level 400, where you're starting to measure and put metrics around your competency and looking at how you can improve it and make it better. And eventually, if you keep doing that and you'll move into a level 500, this sort of Narnia state where everything is systematic and automated. And on the right hand side, you've got a column there which kind of gives a brief description about what each level is. Right on. And back to you, Mark. Do you want to pick up on this one? Oh,
sure. I'll talk about it. So we always love to take a little video of all the people who are here. I think that video is from September. I didn't update the slides, so I apologize. I will do it later. And Simon, I think you're going to capture us for posterity.
I sure am.
All 26 people who are on the call, please feel free to come off. Come off, what's it called, incognito mode, if you will, and show your smiling faces so that we can prove to everybody that we have a great time on these calls and that we have.
I'm just going to share my screen just so that I can sort of take over, because I think it's.
This is always the hardest part of the call.
This is
for some reason. It's a technology thing.
There we go. Okay, right, I'm ready to go. So if everyone could smile, wave, and say Microsoft Ignite.
Yeah. And we're glad that all of you are here, given that Ignite is going on.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Look at all those smiles.
All right.
Must be watching TV or something.
Aren't we?
Right, I'll stop sharing and hand the stage back.
Oh, you need to reshare.
That was me, right? Sorry.
It's with you.
Presenting Teams.
That's it. Perfect.
Oh.
No, and it went to the first slide.
No, so I've got it.
There we go.
Yep, there we go. Right. And then just, again, the routine, we run this every month. We try and do the whole Microsoft be nice to everybody, have a safe space. You're welcome to share any thoughts you've got, whether it's positive critique or whatever. Just be nice to everybody, really. Just be nice to everyone.
Boys or Silas?
Come again?
Sorry, I'm not muted.
All right, you're allowed.
Casey's just being nice.
Yes, being nice. It's all about the thing. There's lots of other ways to get involved if you want to do that. We encourage it, of course. So if anyone wants to present a case study, Matt, I think you're going to do that at some point as a new team member. But other people are allowed to do that too. Yeah, absolutely. Please give us feedback on GitHub. People do, and we take it on board and update the competences accordingly. Heaven knows it's a big enough job. Give us any other feedback you like through any of the mechanisms. We're beginning to develop a presence on Blue Sky, given the state of Twitter these days. So, that might be a tool of choice, and make sure that you share the stuff that you like, love, or think could be improved on the various social platforms that you engage in. There are a set of recordings from these sessions as well, which you can get at through the link there. and it is working. And then we usually produce something that looks like a roadmap of what we're doing up until the end of the year. And so we're at the green one where we're doing sparkles. And more about that in a moment. Next month, unless anything changes, we're going to try and do a bit of a review of what did we learn at Ignite, which impacts what we've been doing here. And that probably means that we've got a bunch more work to do in 2025, which I guess is a good thing.
And if you have been joining us for calls along the way, you notice that we switched the Ignite discussion to December.
That's absolutely right. We figured it was probably better to do that after we'd attended some sessions. So Ignite. So we'll let you know about that exactly. And thanks for all the folks who came along last time, of course. Right. Sparkles. So the body of work that we now have in the maturity model is quite big. And so with our new expanded team, we were having a chat about not so much about what new content can we create, although there's value in that, but just as importantly, how can we make sure that the content we've got is relatively easy to digest for those of you that might want to roll it out in your organizations or in other organizations? So with that in mind, we have instigated a program of work. Right now, we've got about a dozen competencies. Across those, there are 20 sub-competencies and well over 1,000 different characteristics. So the model's pretty big today. And I don't think any organization, big or small, could grab the entire model and go, oh, we're going to get that all up and running. In fact, there's weeks of effort just deciding which bits to focus on. So we've decided to try and help you with that. And competency by competency, we're going through and identifying those characteristics in each competency, which we think, I'm going to stress that again, which we think are the ones which might be first amongst equals. And those which we think are probably a bit more important to look at first, doesn't mean they're more important, just they're the easiest ones or the most impactful ones to go at first, we've identified with one of these cute little sparkle emojis. And you'll start to see those in all of the published competencies that we've got. So that's what we're doing. So here's a quick screen grab from one of the competencies we've already done. And you can see right here, 2 of the characteristics in there have been identified with Sparkle. Just to say, if you only want to do some things, do these first. There are no sparkles at level 100 because we don't want anybody going backwards, so level 100, no one should be or could be below level 100. So the sparkles start to appear at level 200 and upwards. And there's no particular pattern to them. They are just the characteristics that we think are the more urgent, perhaps. I don't know the right word for this. Urgent, important, the ones to focus on. You pick your own word, but those are the ones that we have pulled out. We've tried to pick only...
Yeah, I mean, I think... Sorry to interrupt you. I think it was based on some feedback that there are just an awful lot of words in these things. And if you want to skim down and just sort of see what we think are the key ones, and Simon's been spearheading this, maybe it'll be a little easier to consume.
Exactly that. And so with that in mind, we've only identified those characteristics which are positive and actionable. So some of the characteristics talk about what you're not doing or where you're only adequate, not good. And so those don't get a sparkle. We don't want people actioning bad practice, only better practice. So, positive actionable things have been sparkled. And again, we've used our judgment. You absolutely are entitled and encouraged to choose some different ones and sparkle those, or tell us that you think that those are so important that they should be sparkled in the canonical version of the competencies. So give us feedback.
And we do want to start a worldwide convention here with the sparkles. I think, right? Everything that's important in the world will have sparkles on it.
I like that. Yeah, we should do that. We should get ourselves sparkle badges printed, and maybe for regular practitioners, they get sparkle badges, and it just says I, and then the sparkle. Right.
Deb
has
has
got a
her
question.
hand up.
So one of the things I don't see written here, which I'm finding as we are trying to figure out how to help our clients with Copilot, is there's no talking about permissions and data governance in the content that they are looking to use Copilot with, or AI with, I should say. I think that's also at this level. I don't. And certainly at level 100, there's no thought, no design into permissions. I'm not sure where we would be at for 200, whether getting that act together as a 200 or a 300 level.
Okay, Deb. So we, at the moment, have only really addressed Copilot and other sort of AI and ML within the recently renamed AI and cognitive business competency.
Yep.
So that's the one which specifically addresses Copilot, etc. And there are sections in there on governance in general. We maybe do need to beef up data governance in particular, although it's definitely talked about in that competency.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying, though, is maybe we also ought to be looking at data governance across some of the other competencies. And if that is what you're saying, I completely agree. And content management is one of the ones we're coming to have a look at shortly with that in mind. So, but that's terrific feedback. Thank you. I think, that there is some work to do. Equally, I think that there could be something around a hang on, I've just completely gone blank on the downward, which is annoying because we helped invent it. Bear with me. Check my notes. The practical scenarios. Thank you. Maybe we should also write a practical scenario on data governance, because that pulls in competencies from multiple spaces, and develop a data governance for Copilot practical scenario.
There is a little bit on management of content, though, as well, isn't there? Management content does talk a little bit about partitioning public and internal. So there's a bit there which we as well could be expanded upon too.
I think so, but I think a practical scenario on it would be great, actually.
And Deb,
definitely.
obviously, we're open to direct input, right? If you think that there are some places that you think we should be talking about those topics in existing articles, feel free to do a pull request, or shoot any of us a message if you don't want to deal with GitHub, and we'll figure out a way to get it in.
We'll do. You know me, Mark.
Oh, I know. I know. You're not shy, but we want to make sure that you have, if you have specific feedback, we want to be able to collect that, because that's.
I'll get that. I gotta admit, I have not taken the time to look at all of the content on GitHub, so I will attempt to do that over the holidays.
Okay,
awesome. Because you've got nothing better to do. But seriously, if you do just come across anything, it'd be great if this stuff was addressed in this competency. Please feed it over to us in the next few weeks, because I think we've got 3 competencies have been sparkled at this point, and I'm trying to work through one a week. I'm sure I haven't done one this week, so I'm sure I'm going to be behind already. But the intention is that by I think it might even be the next slide. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. We've done the 3 on the left already. I've put a pull request in for governance, risk and compliance already, and the ones on the right are to be done in whatever order I fancy. So if there's one that you think, it'd be good if this one was upgraded with both sparkles and some data governance stuff, then shoot us a note on that. We'll make that the next one to look at. And then, Bill, you've got a hand up. Fire away.
Yeah, hi. Just curious in terms of the Commonwealth's maturity level. I see we're talking about AI already in Copilot, and I'm wondering if the Commonwealth has been assessed on its current Office 365 maturity, because I don't know that enough of us are using Teams or some of the other features, capability, services as fully as we might find to help our productivity and efficiency. So I'm wondering if we're jumping into Copilot a little too soon for the audience that needs to reach a higher level of maturity. And I wondered if who's looking at the governance within the Commonwealth and what relationships do you guys have with our current leadership on that?
Not sure what you mean by Commonwealth.
So well, this may be an open call for everyone. So I was thinking maybe this was a series that was targeted for us at the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But if I'm mistaken, then I apologize that this is maybe education for more than just the Commonwealth. But if it's targeted at the Commonwealth, I'm a little concerned that we aren't at the maturity level to take on this AI.
Yeah. So this is a call that's open to everybody on the planet. So your concern about the Commonwealth, though, is one that is not unusual to hear out in the rest of the world. I think one of the things that we've been bandying about as a core team is that, Copilot actually is exposing a lot of the problems that already existed in our content management world, in our security world, et cetera, that already existed and had its impact primarily surfaced by search. You've got permissions that are all over the map. People are finding things they shouldn't find, et cetera. So that's sort of sprinkled throughout a lot of the competencies that we've already got documented, but we're constantly rethinking based on where Copilot and AI is going from Microsoft.
Okay, so if we wanted to kind of refocus our strategy, is there a Microsoft contact for the Commonwealth that we should be talking to help us improve our maturity level?
No idea. This is we're all a bunch of just sort of community members who are running this call. I don't know who the community of or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania would interact with at Microsoft.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That said, Bill, if you want to talk to any of us about, the level of maturity, within or across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, absolutely reach out. We don't have the answers in terms of your relationship with the greater Microsoft, but we can certainly help you think about or phrase the questions around where you are across the state or where you'd like to get to. Happy to help on that.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. So that's where we are. We've got a bit of a job to do to try and sparkle these all up, and I suspect that we'll continue to add sparkles to them as comments come in or we have new and interesting thoughts. But the idea is to make it a little bit easier for those people who are grabbing a competency and trying to use it to improve the maturity of that competency in whatever organisation or organisations they're involved in. So hopefully it'll help. That's certainly the intention. So, with the help of Pia, Mats, and Galen, there's some other improvements we're going to be trying to do across the set. So we're going to try and spice the competencies up because they're getting pretty heavy. Some of the later ones are running to dozens of pages of content. We need to try and provide some more ways of accessing the knowledge that's bound up in those. So we're going to try and insert more images and infographics to provide alternative ways to get the insights. We're going to go back and look at the Microsoft technologies because some of these competencies are 3-ish years old now, and Microsoft have done some development around stuff in the meantime. Yeah, absolutely, including Copilot, but not all. So we need to do some refresh on have we captured everything, and make sure that the new learning that's coming out of Ignite and elsewhere is being rolled into those older competencies over the next year. Right. So that's where we are. Hopefully you'll find that you find that all that pretty useful stuff. Please have a look at those. I will just step back actually. Please have a look at those competencies we've already updated, the first 3, and hopefully within the next couple of days, governance, risk and compliance, and see if you agree with our choices of Sparkle. And give us feedback on any other sparkles for other competencies that you are particularly passionate about. And that's that. So, second half of this session is helping to steer us on what we should do next year. So, with that in mind, we've tried to identify some things that we could do, and then we're going to get you to do some, live interactive audience participation. Painful though I know that is. We're not going to make you sing or clap along, but we are going to get you to anonymously.
Oh, did we take the talent section of the proceedings out?
Yeah, we did a survey, and I think there were I had personal threats, so I decided that we'd skip that one. We're really keen to do a bunch of practical scenarios. We think, as I say, the competency set is big enough without making it any heavier. But taking some of that and saying, what would it look like to maybe improve? How would an organization explicitly improve just branding for the sake of argument? And that's topical because Microsoft has just launched their branding center within SharePoint. Or another conversation I've had is around how would we do knowledge management? Actually, we had a conversation about should we have a knowledge management competency? And our view is no, we shouldn't. We should have a practical scenario about how to implement better knowledge management using the competencies that we've got. So we've got about 6 suggested scenarios there. I actually think there may be quite a lot more. So if you've got a pet scenario that you think should be improved or created, then we're going to ask you about that. We have kicked around some other competencies. Data analytics and security you saw on the list earlier. We've been wondering whether there shouldn't be a sustainability competency. It seems to be highly topical. It's a hot button for me. And that could be both sustainability in terms of sustainable business processes and just sustainable development and all those things, but also ecological sustainability and how do we build that into our business. So we could do that. We'd like your view on it. So the way this is going to work is we're going to ask you to scan that QR code, or if you're lucky, you might be able to actually click that link because it looks like it's clickable, and that should take you into a thing called a Slido, which I've never used before. So this is
And we're
going to
going to see.
exciting.
We're going to see how this works.
We are. So in theory, I can click that. Well, indeed, Mark, because you've got the Sherry thing, you can click the Slido.
I don't think I need to click the thing. I think you go to the next slide.
Well, I couldn't get that to work earlier, so let's see.
No, but you're on my machine, so.
No, that's what I got to.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to take over.
I don't know if that's through PowerPoint Live, it's doing it.
Yeah, PowerPoint Live is not going to do this for us. I apologize for trouble.
If you click the big button there, Mark, and then share that screen, you should be golden on that. I can see some people are already beginning to participate. So before you do jump off the screen, just make sure everyone's grab that link or grab the QR code, and so we can then get you to all join the interaction. Another 30 seconds. Actually, just checking.
All right. Sorry, I just had to get my screen set up. I'm going to share now.
Yeah, go with it.
And just have to make sure I share the right screen so you don't see all this nonsense on my other screen. Oh, not that one.
Where's the other screen?
My apologies. This technology stuff is hard. Here we go. See it?
Hey. Yep, got that. And terrific. Some people have already started engaging, which is fantastic. So there's a bunch of questions. I guess we should shut up and let people actually have a go at these. There's no prizes, I'm afraid.
So there are a couple of different sections to this. I don't know how you see it on the Slido app on your ends, but one of the things we're trying to figure out is, sort of how familiar are you with the model and where are you with using it? And that's what these first couple of questions get at. The next couple after that, and I don't know if you see them all at once or you see them in pieces. I don't know if anyone could share how it works for you. We're curious about what challenges that you're getting with the model and what kind of additional support you might need. So suggestions for additions or clarifications or things like that. The next section is about evaluating the current tools and resources. How do they work for you? What do you think of them? And then the last section is about measuring impact and success. What have you been able to accomplish with the thinking behind the maturity model, if you've been using or you're familiar with it for a while? And how have you been measuring that outcome?
I think we've made a slight mistake in the way that the QR codes work, Mark. I think I'm figuring it out now. So the QR code on each individual survey question is different. So I can see lots of people are busily answering measuring impact and success, which is terrific. We might have to step into the other polls so people can see those QR codes and respond to those.
I am figuring this out.
This is live learning, people. This is
and I apologize for my lack of whatever it is I'm lacking. Here we go. Okay, so assessing familiarity and adoption. We talked about this. How familiar are you with the Microsoft maturity model, or the maturity model for Microsoft 365? It looks like you haven't gotten to this one yet, so maybe you have to scan that individual code. Again, our apologies.
Oh, actually, you've got a control surface at the bottom there as well. That
yes,
we
I
can
do.
Step through these. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Now I understand that.
Yeah. This is live learning, folks.
And we'll sort of give a minute or two for each one of these questions. If anybody has any thoughts or ideas that you'd like to put into chat or talk about live, feel free to do that. We don't want this just to be a staring at the screen section.
Chandia. I'll go, Shanda. Yeah, I'll go ahead and
Shanda, sorry.
Yeah, I've been using the maturity model for a while, just trying to explain to customers kind of what the level of maturities are within their environment from a governance, risk, and compliance. But as we move through the levels of governance, risk, and compliance, I feel like that in working with customers, right, on implementing, maturing their model, it gets a little bit dicey with understanding what licensing they have and what's really available to them. From, having, an example, sensitive information or sensitive information types and setting sensitivity labels. And if they have a P1, then that licensing will only allow them to do manual labeling and not auto labeling. So I think that as we're, using this model, it really doesn't give kind of what are the requirements for you to have from a licensing perspective in order to obtain and achieve the maturity levels.
Yeah, I'll jump on that first, and I'm sure Simon, if not others, will have something to say about it too. We've tried very hard to come at the maturity levels from a sort of a business perspective. this is what you should be trying to accomplish. These are the outcomes that you should be aiming for. These are the outcomes that we typically see at the different levels. How you implement the solution to getting from one level to another varies oftentimes based on size of the organization, industry you're in, all of that sort of stuff. So from a licensing perspective, and given the incredible black box that licensing actually is, there's no simple answer. Using sensitivity labels, for example, is a good practice depending on whether it's a good practice for you. And that's sort of the ethos around why we don't talk about licensing much. We do try to mention what products might get you into a better place, and sometimes we even mention them specifically in the pros. But in most cases, we're talking about what the outcomes, the goals that you're trying to achieve instead.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I understand. I just think that it's difficult, as you're going through talking about the maturity models for customers to even wrap their heads around. And what is that roadmap and what does it look like?
That's,
how do
totally
I get,
fair point.
how do I get from this? Yeah. And I understand that it is from the business perspective, because all of this change has to start with the business. Technology does not, it's the technology is there. It has to be a business conversation in order to achieve the goal that they're trying to achieve. It has to be. And
Chanda, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. Because if it doesn't come from the top, nobody's going to make time out of their day job to do this.
Exactly. And you're not going to get the funding. And I feel like that oftentimes I work with people who are in IT, and they kind of want to hold that bag close to them and tight, and they don't want they want to have full control, right? And there's so much that they're working in their day-to-day that they don't understand, and so that really does hold back the business, right? And now we have Copilot, and I'm working on a lot of Copilot engagements, and now all of this is kind of unraveling with understanding what is our where are we from a security and risk posture, and now how do we get there? And those are often tough conversations to have whenever there's a report that I run that kind of tells kind of what the risk exposure is with external. I mean, people don't even understand their settings, their sharing settings within their environment, and how to safely bring in guest and external sharing. It's just wide open. And then how do you get your arms around the crawl that's happened for the past 5 years?
Yep, completely agree. We debated whether to include things like licenses in the maturity models several times. To my knowledge, the only place where we've actually done it is in governance, risk and compliance, where we felt that there was such a substantial leaning on those licenses as you get up into the higher levels that it was appropriate to include them. But normally we try and be technology agnostic and not say you need this Microsoft product to achieve it, because you can do it by some other means. But in this case, we did put it in there. If you think that there are other competencies which would actively benefit from having the appropriate licensing outlined, then please again let us know and we'll take a view on that.
You'll notice I have the in one word, what is your biggest obstacle in communicating with non-IT stakeholders? And I guess some of you don't understand what one word is, but that's okay. We will tease that out. And I from what I can see, this QR code is actually the same for all of these different questions. So I think each of you are probably hopping around answering things in the order which you are choosing to, which is great. It's this is going to be very helpful for us. And I think we'll probably also be promoting these questions after the call so that we can get more feedback from people who didn't join the call, and continue to, sort of keep our fingers on the pulse of what folks are thinking about. Anyone else have any thoughts they'd like to share? What about what you'd like to see us do next year? And if you say co-pilot, we're going to roll our eyes a little bit. That's the juggernaut from Microsoft these days for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to see some examples of how to communicate with organizations. How do we convince them that this is what they need to do? I think we all know what needs to be done. I think it's the convincing the businesses that we're supporting that this needs to be done. And so
we kind of need an elevator pitch for the maturity model.
Yeah, pretty much.
What format would that take for you, Deb? What do you think would be the best?
I'm asking myself that question as I'm saying it, which is why I was hesitating as I'm saying it. I don't know. I don't know if it's an example of maybe it's a combination of examples of where people have had successes or failures.
I agree with you, Deb. Almost like a facilitator's guide, right? Whenever you're running a workshop, you get the facilitator's guide, you get a deck that has kind of, so maybe, facilitator's guide, a deck. And then again, I agree with you 100%, some success stories around where people have been successful and what difference that's made within their organization.
As well as some not success stories as well. I think the risk of not doing it is also important. And I think we need to start it with the general problem, because we're all trying to solve problems. And if people, I think, can see this as solving a problem, how do I find my stuff, right? How do I make sure my stuff is secure? How do I, make sure I'm looking at the latest version of something? How do I, organize the content how do I get rid of the content that's old without getting rid of it? Those are the problems that we see our end users having. So how do we use the maturity model then to solve those problems? And
I put a link to the how to run a maturity model workshop in the chat. I don't know if you've seen that article, but and you talked about workshop in what the two of you were just saying. So there might be some thoughts there that would be helpful.
I have looked at this. It's been a while, but yes, I have looked at this.
Yeah, I have too. Yeah.
I would say one of the things as well is looking at what the business's objectives and challenges are, speaking with senior management teams and sort of finding out their pain points, and then looking at how the maturity model competencies can help them solve those challenges. So looking at from the business perspective of what it's trying to do, and then fitting that into how the maturity model can help take that business on that journey to solve those issues. So for example, working with a customer and they're struggling to communicate with all their employees, and those are frontline workers as well. So looking at the communication competency to allow them to improve that communication across the whole organization.
Is there also any way we can convince Microsoft to offer a certification on this? Because there's very little about this kind of stuff in certification. I'm studying for my MS 102, which I don't do most of it. But what I do, there's no certification for, and this is one of the areas.
Yeah, I think that would be a tough one. The certifications that they do offer, and I'll admit I haven't done one in forever, they tend to be a bit more quantitative than qualitative. And this model is very qualitative. I mean, it could just be
knowledge based, understanding and knowledge based. But
and I think that's one of the problems that we tend to hear people talking about is, I don't know where to start chewing on this. I don't know how to start. I don't know how to internalize this. And you're echoing some of those thoughts. You know, where's the elevator pitch? Where's the how do we explain this to people? And then, to be honest, it's also that, you know, we this is intentionally a community-based model so that we can you know, keep it external to Microsoft. They've got that whole adoption.microsoft.com site, which they would probably say contains a lot of the learning paths and concepts that they think are important, but they tend to be very product focused, very implementation focused, as opposed to planning focused.
True.
My opinion.
True.
There are
I
those
agree.
who would disagree.
Maybe we should run an updated version of how to run a Microsoft 365 workshop. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we were talking about last week, Simon, is doing a sort of a live role play version of a workshop.
That would be awesome.
Okay, we like that feedback. Awesome, we'll take.
We did do one, didn't we? Many years ago at Bletchley Park.
We did. Yeah, that was fun actually. A little terrifying, but fun. But no, that's on the cards for the new year. We need to work out, you know, scripts and roles and buy funny hats and things. But that's the plan. So thank you for that feedback. That's really good. I captured the comments there in the slide deck that we've just been using. So I've added another section into the next year's topics with implementation resources. So that's good.
How's this
we
Slido
can-
thing working? I'm not sure that, I mean, I see, like, whoops, somebody just voted on that. Is this working for people on the call?
So
Yeah.
as you're clicking through, then it's showing me the questions. So I am filling these out just from our perspective. So it does work. I think we just need to prompt people. I think we just need to understand how it works as well a bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we prompt people
And sort of our bad for not practicing ahead of time, but we try something new by jumping in with both feet, don't we?
Yeah. Our maturity level will go up, definitely.
Well,
You know, the guys on that
you can't-
the first question about how effective you find the current tools, they're effective. I wouldn't say they're very effective. I wouldn't say they're somewhat effective. They're effective. I haven't fully implemented them. I haven't fully used them. It's a resource that I go to look at. So I'm going to put somewhat effective, but it's actually somewhere between somewhat and very effective.
There you go. We can improve our maturity by having a scale of 1 to 10 of where 1 is not effective and 10 is super effective.
Cool. We're still getting data coming in. This is good.
Getting buy-in from leadership certainly is a key aspect of all of this. And I think that it's a fault that happens in a lot of IT organizations where there's this feeling that if you implement a technology, it will solve a problem. And I've been harping on that for decades. And I've been on both sides of that wall. But getting your leadership to understand why you're going to do some of these things, what the outcomes are, and I say outcomes and goals a lot, what the outcomes and goals of the effort are going to be, what's going to change, what's going to be better, as opposed to focusing on let's roll this out by September. That often happens first, as opposed to understanding what the outcomes and goals should be first.
Yeah, and how you measure those outcomes, isn't it, as well? Getting those metrics in place.
Right. How do you know it's gotten better?
Yeah.
That's a level 400 activity right there.
Yeah. Well, some and just sort of understanding some sort of baseline, which is which is part of what we're trying to talk about with the model, right? You sort of read through on each competency and get to the point where, oh, that doesn't describe us. We must be one level higher in the article, right? So if you read through level 100 and you're like, oh yeah, we do all that stuff. And then you read level 200, oh yeah, we do all that stuff. And then you read level 300 and you're like, not really. Then you're at level 200. And that's right there. You've got, as subjective as that is, you've got a baseline that you can use to start talking to your leadership.
Right, we're in the last 2 minutes, and I've got a hard stop, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I guess people can continue to interact with the Slido in the meantime. But Mark, if we jump back into slide 16, sorry,
Yep.
15. I don't know if it's updated on yours or not, but I've added in some of those comments that people had just to show that we were listening. To remind us that that's where we put them, I suppose.
Should be loading. Zoom. Sorry, you said 15. There we go. Oh,
Yeah, there's a build on.
I'm clicking. Stop.
There
Okay,
it is.
there we go.
Got it. Yeah, so I think that was a really useful session for us, and there's a bunch of extra ideas there which we'll take up with the team and see who wants to pick up running with what. But yeah, I think some of that implementation resource stuff is really important stuff for us to hear. It's been on our mind, but there's a bunch of things there we hadn't considered, especially that sort of marketing approach.
Actually, another question, speaking of marketing and sales, we've got salespeople who do not know the product the same level that we all do. How do we help them sell this? Silence.
Okay, we add that.
That is definitely a guide to the to the sales executive pitch, isn't it? Yeah.
Higher level, because these guys are not going to go in deep. But how do they get us to the table so we can actually have that conversation with the business to help them sell this?
Yeah, and a lot of it is just is the salesperson listening to the language of the customer and then picking out that challenge that they've got and going, oh yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, there's this competency and in the maturity model. That's how I do it. That's how I do it with our customers. So yeah.
Right, folks, I'm apologise, but I absolutely need to run at this point. Feel free to carry on the conversation without me, and thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Simon.
It goes well, but thank you so much.
We are done it with our time. Thank you all for joining, and we're sorry that we had the startup issues. We lost about 7 minutes there. We'll get that all sorted out by next week. And if you want to stick with us and follow along in the next set of calls, we will be meeting again on December 17th. And as we mentioned, we'll talk about Ignite a bit and what sort of trends and things we've heard about there. And if you have thoughts about what we should do next year and where we should go from here, please do continue to let us know. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in December.
As always, it was great. Thank you.